Kids are going to be evaluating the types of connections and the types of ideas that they're having about different texts throughout their entire careers and into adulthood. And so it's important that they're getting some experiences really early on with some help and criteria. We have read this story for the flow. So today we're going to finish talking about this story, and then we're going to do some writing and some thinking. We've been working on text-to-text connections, and we just came off of reading a fiction book about a dog who was rescued from an animal shelter called Trooper. And this week we've been really spending some time digging into excerpts from a nonfiction story about dogs. The problem is that there are too many dogs. Today we reviewed the text that we've been talking about all week, and I modeled for them what a text-to-text connection was and how you really go with the important text-to-text connection versus the interesting one. But I need your help because I've made these text-to-text connections. I want you to figure out, did I make important text-to-text connections or were they just kind of interesting? In order to figure out whether your connection is important, you have to evaluate it based on some criteria that we made as a class. I want you to ask yourself, is this connection helping me learn something? Is this connection helping me ask myself a question? Is this connection helping me get a new idea about my story? And if it is, then it's an important connection. My hope was that kids would be able to see the connections between this nonfiction excerpt and the fiction story Trooper. I wrote down a text-to-text connection. I'm gonna stop because I wanna share it with you. Everything Dogs is about dogs. And Trooper is about dogs.
Get out of town, Miss Ann.
Why do you say that? I want you to quickly turn and talk to a partner and tell me, why are you telling me to get out of town? When I was doing the modeling portion of the lesson, I thought it was going pretty well. They actually connected back to how we evaluated our text-to-self connection, saying, get out of town. I would say the majority, if not all of the kids, were able to decide whether it was actually an interesting connection or an important connection.
Miss Ann could give us more evidence than this.
The next part, I asked them to get their Post-its out and sit down and take a look at the resources that I had available. Lay on your belly and go ahead and write down a connection. Listen to the nonfiction text as I read it to you to help you make a connection. Remember, you can look up here to see the pictures of the story from Trooper and from the stray dog. The problem is that there are too many dogs. Listen as you write. I had really high expectations, but about halfway through my lesson, I realized that they really weren't getting to the point where I wanted them to be, and I had to switch gears. And when I noticed that it wasn't going quite as planned was when I interviewed them. Some kids were reverting back to text-to-self connections.
And so that made me feel really sad.
I noticed that some kiddos were identifying something that could be a text-to-text connection, but weren't bringing in that second text.
Appreciating that her students had not fully grasped the concept of text-to-text, Anne transitioned the class to independent learning centers so she could consider how to redirect the lesson.
I needed to find a student who had an exemplar and then debrief why this was exemplary. As I was looking around for a kiddo who could really make it clear how he or she made the connection from one text to another text, Ozzy came up to me.
All right, let's talk about that, bud.
What does it remind you of?
You're looking in a book and it reminds you of another book. That's
exactly right.
And with just a couple questions, he was able to come up with pretty close to an exemplary answer.
How does this picture help you? What does it make you think of in what we read today?
The dogs are stray dogs, and the boys are throwing the stones at the stray dogs, and they think they're mean because they're doing that.
And so what do people at the animal shelter do to help? What do they teach them?
That old people are not mean.
Yeah, that is a fantastic connection, Ozzy. I want you to write that down.
Kids learn so much more from their peers. It tells them that they can do it too. It gives them something to strive for that they know they can achieve. And it gives them a resource. He will share his thoughts with other kids and be able to word it in a way that the other kids will understand, probably much better than I'll be able to word it.
Ozzy, can you stand up?
And tell us all about the connection you made.
That story said some people are mean to stray dogs. And in this story, the boys were throwing the stones at the stray dogs. When that person's petting the dog, it's at the vet, teaching the dogs that some people can be nice to dogs.
Today I think I asked them to do too much too fast. They need practice just making the connections themselves. He said, this book said this, and it reminded me of this. And I want you to think, could I make my text-to-text connection better, like Ozzy's? The value of having Ozzy's example is something that we can anchor to when we get to evaluating those connections. I'm gonna use Ozzy's example as the exemplar that we're all striving to work towards.
Up in the air, put your hands up in the air. Put your hands up in the air, put your hands